In 1966, while America was obsessed with compact Mustangs and mid-size GTOs, Ford quietly built something very different. It was a full-size luxury car with a NASCAR heart and European sensibilities. They called it the Galaxie 507-liter, and only 11,073 people bought one before Ford killed it after a single year. Those who passed it by had no idea they were watching the last and best full-size American muscle car ever made disappear into history. The story of the 7-liter begins not in a corporate boardroom, but on the high banks of Daytona International Speedway. In 1965, Ford Galaxies won 48 out of 55 NASCAR races. Ned Jarrett crossed the finish line at the Southern 515 laps ahead of second place, a record that still stands today. Fred Lorenzen took the Daytona 500 in his number 28 Holman Moody Galaxie. Ford's total performance program was proving that racing sold cars, but there was a problem. The engine doing all that winning was too brutal for anyone to actually live with. The 427 cubic inch V8 that dominated NASCAR was a beast. It had solid lifters that clattered like a diesel at idle. The camshaft was so aggressive, Ford called it a woolly cam. You could not order it with air conditioning or power steering. It had to be paired with a 4-speed manual transmission because no automatic could survive its violence. It was perfect for turning left at 180 miles per hour for 500 miles. It was miserable sitting in traffic on the way to work. Ford's engineers asked themselves a simple question. What if they could capture most of that power, but tame the aggression? What if they could build an engine that made a businessman feel like Fred Lorenzen without beating him up every time he drove to the grocery store? The answer was the 428 cubic inch V8. And it represented a completely different philosophy about making horsepower. Instead of revving high like a race engine, the 428 used a long 3.98-inch stroke to generate massive torque at low engine speeds. It featured hydraulic lifters that made it smooth and quiet. Most importantly, it worked perfectly with automatic transmissions, air conditioning, power steering, and every luxury feature Ford offered. The official numbers were 345 horsepower and 462 pound-feet of torque, arriving at just 2,800 revolutions per minute. That torque figure meant effortless acceleration, whether you were merging onto a highway or passing on a 2-lane road. Owners described it as mind-bending torque off idle. When you touched the gas pedal, the car simply surged forward without drama. The engine choice was fascinating, but Ford's naming decision was even more interesting. Instead of calling it the Galaxie 500 428, like most American cars of the era, they chose 7-liter, using the British spelling and metric measurement. In 1966, America, this was exotic. American cars did not use liters. The name gave the car European sophistication that made it stand apart from every Super Sport and Gran Turismo badge on the road. The actual displacement was 6,997 cubic centimeters, close enough to round up to 7 liters. This naming strategy was decades ahead of its time, predating the metric conventions that would not become standard in Detroit until the 1980s. Ford paired the 428 with their brand-new C6 Cruise O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission, designed specifically to handle big block torque. This was not just any automatic. It used disc clutch plates instead of the bands found in earlier automatics, giving it far greater durability. Ford rated it for 475 pound-feet of torque, more than enough to handle the 428 with room to spare. For buyers who wanted to shift themselves, Ford offered a top-loader 4-speed manual at no extra cost. This heavy-duty gearbox featured a massive 1.375-inch input shaft and fully synchronized gears, making it one of the strongest manuals available in any American car. But perhaps the most significant feature of the 7-liter was something most American buyers had never experienced: standard front disc brakes. In 1966, only 3.3% of all full-size Fords had disc brakes because they cost an expensive $96.51 as an option. Every single 7-liter came with them standard. These were not ordinary disc brakes. Ford used Kelsey Hayes 4-piston calipers, the same type found on high-end European sports cars. The calipers were so large that Ford had to design special 15-inch wheels with an internal groove just to clear them. Car Life magazine tested the brakes and was deeply impressed, writing that the brakes inspired so much confidence that even panic situations could be met with restraint. Their testing showed deceleration rates of 27 to 29 feet per second, squared with only slight fade, after repeated stops from 80 miles per hour or 129 kilometers per hour. For a car weighing over 2 tons, this was remarkable stopping power. The significance cannot be overstated. Ford was giving buyers in 1966 braking technology that most American cars would not offer as standard equipment until the 1970s. The 7-liter did not just share styling with Ford's NASCAR racers, it shared their suspension design. The 1965 to 1966 full-size Fords introduced an all-new suspension system that was so good, NASCAR teams used it as their benchmark for decades. The front end used an independent design with coil springs, upper and lower control arms, and a diagonal strut rod. The 7-liter version received heavy-duty springs, heavier shock absorbers, and a heavy-duty front stabilizer bar for reduced body roll in corners. What made this design special was its geometry. Unlike the rear steer setups common on other cars of the era, Ford's front suspension provided predictable, stable handling that racing teams found ideal for high-speed competition. According to automotive historians, this suspension design became the standard for NASCAR racing, regardless of manufacturer, well into the 1980s. At the rear, Ford eliminated traditional leaf springs, replacing them with a 3-link coil spring system, featuring a panhard rod to locate the axle laterally. Heavy-duty coil springs with approximately 190 pounds per inch rate, and heavy-duty shock absorbers kept the rear planted during hard acceleration. Rather than using the standard Ford 9-inch rear axle found in lesser Galaxies, the 7-liter received the heavier-duty 9.375-inch unit shared with Lincoln and the F-100 truck. This larger differential featured 31 spline axles for greater strength, essential for handling the 428's massive torque. Available gear ratios ranged from 2.80 to 1 for highway cruising to 3.50 to 1 for quicker acceleration. The 1966 full-size Fords represented a subtle evolution of the completely redesigned 1965 models. While the 2 years appeared similar at first glance, the hood was the only interchangeable exterior body part between them. Everything else received refinements that many enthusiasts consider the pinnacle of 1960s Ford styling. The 7-liter featured stacked quad headlights, vertically arranged dual headlights on each side, framing a horizontally split grille. While regular Galaxie 500s used an anodized aluminum grille, the 7-liter and other premium models received a chrome-plated die-cast grille that period reviewers praised as very attractive and having a more upscale look. One of the most significant styling changes for 1966 was the introduction of a subtle Coke bottle profile in the quarter panels. The rear haunches featured a slight kick-up that created more sculpted lines than the relatively straight-sided 1965 models. The 2-door hardtop featured a sweeping fastback roofline that Hot Rod magazine described as creating somewhat European, pseudo-fastback rear flanks. The concave C-pillar design on the 2-door hardtop is considered by many enthusiasts to be one of the best rooflines in American automotive history. At the rear, the 1966 models introduced distinctive taillights that enthusiasts affectionately call squircles, squares with rounded corners. These were noticeably different from the bulged rectangle design of 1965 and created a cleaner, more modern appearance. The visual differences between a 7-liter and a regular Galaxie 500 were subtle but strategically placed. 7-liter emblems appeared on the grille, both front fenders, and the deck lid. Standard pinstriping ran along the belt line and lower body. Unique styled steel wheel covers were exclusive to the 7-liter. The understated badging was intentional. This was a sleeper, a car that did not look like it could perform the way it did. Owners loved pulling up next to flashier muscle cars and surprising their drivers when the light turned green. Ford offered the 7-liter in 15 striking colors that perfectly captured the optimism of mid-1960s America. Raven black, Wimbledon white, Arcadian blue, night mist blue, silver blue, ivy green, Tahoe turquoise, Sahara beige, springtime yellow, silver frost, sauterne gold, candy apple red, vintage burgundy, antique bronze, and ember glow. Some buyers ordered special colors from the Lincoln palette. One notable example is sapphire blue, a 1966 Lincoln exclusive color that was used on one of only 2 427 powered 7-liter convertibles ever built, making it a one-of-one car. Inside, the 7-liter was unmistakably a performance car. Standard front bucket seats featured thick padding and crinkle vinyl with rosette inserts, similar to Ford's Thunderbird appointments. The centerpiece of the interior was the simulated English walnut 3-spoke steering wheel, shared with the Mustang and Fairlane GT. While CarLife magazine criticized it as imitation wood complete with phony rivets, owners loved the sporty look it provided. A floor console with T-handle shifter was standard equipment, housing the gear selector in a sporty, driver-focused arrangement. Wood grain trim accents decorated the dashboard, and a 120 miles per hour or 193 kilometers per hour speedometer made clear that this car was meant to move. CarLife magazine tested a 7-liter with the standard 428 engine and C6 automatic transmission in January 1966. They recorded 0 to 60 miles per hour in 8.0 seconds and the quarter mile in 16.4 seconds at 89 miles per hour or 143 kilometers per hour. They also clocked 0 to 100 miles per hour or 161 kilometers per hour in 21.4 seconds. These numbers might not sound impressive today, but context matters. In 1966, most family cars took 15 or more seconds to reach 60 miles per hour. The 7-liter could embarrass many sports cars of its era while carrying 5 adults in air-conditioned comfort. For comparison, a 1965 Galaxie with the race-ready, dual-quad 427 achieved 0 to 60 in just 4.8 seconds and ran the quarter mile in 14.9 seconds at 97 miles per hour or 156 kilometers per hour. But that car was difficult to drive, could not have air conditioning, and beat up its occupants with harsh ride quality and excessive noise. Owner testimonials confirmed the 7-liter's street credentials. One owner reported that he put a 2.7 gear in it and got 18 miles per gallon on the expressway, usually over 110 miles per hour, or 177 kilometers per hour in the quarter, with a 3.3 gear, and only lost 2 races, a built 1968 426 Hemi-Charger and a 1967 427 Corvette that was not stock. If you would like to see more forgotten muscle car stories like this, consider subscribing to our channel. We dig deep into automotive history to bring you the cars that time forgot but deserve to be remembered. Ford produced the Galaxie 500 7-liter for just one model year, and even during that year, production was modest. The final numbers tell the story. Ford built 8,705 2-door hardtops and 2,368 convertibles for a total of 11,073 units. To put these numbers in perspective, Ford sold nearly 1 million full-size cars in 1966. The 7-liter represented barely 1.1% of that total. Meanwhile, the less exciting LTD sold 97,065 units, nearly 9 times as many as the 7-liter. Among the 11,073 cars built, some configurations are extraordinarily rare. Only 38 total were ordered with the 427 engine, approximately 36 hardtops, and 2 convertibles. Of those convertibles with the 427, only 2 were built with a 4-speed manual transmission, documented by Marty Auto Works. That means someone looking for a 427-powered 7-liter convertible with a 4-speed has exactly 2 cars to choose from in the entire world, assuming both still exist. One of these was painted special order sapphire blue, making it a unique one of one vehicle. The 7-liter 2-door hardtop had a base price of $3,596.10 in 1966. The convertible cost approximately $3,875.10. Here is an interesting fact. The 7-liter cost only $43.67 more than a Galaxie 500 XL, equipped with the same engine, transmission, and disc brakes ordered as individual options. Ford was essentially giving buyers exclusive badging and prestige for less than $50. One documented sale showed a 7-liter selling for $4,182.82, fully equipped at Bison Motor Company in Great Falls, Montana, on June 14, 1966. Popular options included air conditioning for $356.09, the 420, 7R-code engine with 425 horsepower for $750.78, an AM/FM radio for $133, and a stereosonic tape system with 8-track for $127.56. Today, the 7-liter has quietly appreciated over the years, though it remains more affordable than many comparable muscle cars. A number 1 Concours condition hardtop can bring up to $137,000, while excellent number 2 condition examples sell for $45,000 to $65,000. Good driver, quality cars in number 3 condition trade for $25,000 to $35,000. Convertibles command higher prices across all condition levels. Recent auction results show wide variation based on condition and documentation. A Mecum Kissimmee sale in January 2023 brought $55,000 for an excellent restored hardtop, while driver quality examples on Bring a Trailer have sold for $13,000 to $14,500. The extremely rare 427 equipped examples would command significantly higher prices, potentially into 6 figures for documented convertibles. While the 1966 7-liter itself was positioned as a gentleman's performance car, its DNA came directly from the most successful NASCAR platform Ford ever built. Understanding this racing heritage reveals why the 7-liter was such a capable machine. From 1963 through 1965, Ford Galaxies dominated stock car racing in ways that have rarely been matched. In 1963, Galaxie Fastbacks finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th at Daytona with the new 427 low-riser engines. Ford won 23 Grand National races and took the manufacturer's championship from Pontiac. In 1964, despite Chrysler introducing the fearsome 426 Hemi, high-riser Galaxies won the majority of Grand National races. But 1965 was Ford's most dominant season ever. Holman Moody prepared Galaxies won an astounding 48 out of 55 races. Ned Jarrett captured the Grand National Championship with 13 wins, including a legendary Southern 500 victory, where he crossed the finish line 15 laps ahead of the second-place car, a NASCAR record that may never be broken. The list of NASCAR legends who wheeled Ford Galaxies reads like a Hall of Fame. Fred Fast. Freddie Lorenzen won the 1965 Daytona 500 in his number 28 Holman Moody Galaxie, one of 5 victories that season. His car was painted Wimbledon white with Lafayette Ford sponsorship. and it became one of the most famous race cars of the era. Ned Jarrett's 1965 championship season included that incredible Southern 500 victory. He was known as Gentleman Ned for his calm demeanor, but behind the wheel of a Galaxie, he was nearly unbeatable. Dan Gurney, better known for sports car racing, won the 1965 season opener at Riverside in a Wood Brothers Galaxie, proving the car's versatility on road courses. Junior Johnson, Dick Hutcherson, Cale Yarborough, and Curtis Turner all scored victories in Galaxies during this golden era. Perhaps the most lasting contribution of the 1965 to 1966 Galaxie to racing was its front suspension design. The geometry was so effective that NASCAR teams of all manufacturers used it as their benchmark well into the 1980s and beyond. The production 7-liter shared this exact suspension design, giving owners a direct connection to championship-winning technology. By 1966, NASCAR rules had changed to favor mid-size cars, and Ford's racing efforts shifted to the fair lane. Only 3 1966 Galaxies were built for NASCAR by Holman Moody before Ford's mid-season boycott over engine rules. This made the 7-liter the last full-size Ford to carry the torch of NASCAR heritage into the showroom. The 7-liter's 428 engine traced its lineage directly to Ford's successful drag racing programs of 1963 to 1964. In 1963, Ford built approximately 200 lightweight Galaxies specifically for drag racing. These special cars featured fiberglass hoods and fenders, aluminum bumpers, lightweight bucket seats, and the race-ready 427 engine. Weight reductions allowed them to run quarter-mile times in the low 12-second range at nearly 120 miles per hour or 193 kilometers per hour. Dick Brannon set Ford's first national NHRA Superstock record in a Galaxie lightweight, establishing Ford as a serious drag racing competitor. When Ford's engineers realized even the lightweight Galaxies were too heavy for top-level drag competition, they created the 1964 Fairlane Thunderbolt, putting the 427 engine into the smaller, lighter intermediate body. Only 100 Thunderbolts were built, 49 with 4 speeds and 51 with automatics. These brutal machines ran the quarter mile in 11.61 seconds at 124.8 miles per hour or 201 kilometers per hour. Gasronda won the 1964 NHRA Winter Nationals in a Thunderbolt, and the model secured Ford's 1964 NHRA Superstock Championship. The 428 engine in the 7-liter was directly descended from the same FE engine family that powered these legendary drag racers. In fact, the 428 would later evolve into the 428 Cobra Jet that dominated drag racing in 1968 to 1970. Perhaps the most famous 7-liter story involves comedian and car collector Jay Leno, whose connection to this car spans nearly 60 years. In 1966, a 16-year-old Jay accompanied his parents to the Ford dealership. His parents let him pick the engine for their new Galaxie, thinking a teenager's choice would not matter much. Jay had other ideas. He pulled the salesman aside and whispered that they needed the 7-liter package plus muffler delete with straight glass packs. When the car was delivered and his father started it for the first time, the engine roared to life with a thunderous exhaust note. Jay's father was furious, convinced there was a hole in the muffler of his brand-new car. The salesman explained that, "No, Mr. Leno, that is the way it sounds." Despite the initial shock, Jay's father grew to love the car. Years later, Jay found a speeding ticket hidden in his father's dresser for 110 miles per hour, or 177 kilometers per hour. So Jay knew he really enjoyed the car. The story took a sad turn when Jay wrapped the Galaxie around a tree and broke it in half in 1973. But the memory never left him. Decades later, now one of the world's most famous car collectors, Jay Leno acquired a 7-liter with the 4-speed manual transmission, the one he always wished his father had gotten. He restored it with tasteful modern upgrades, a Roush 511 cubic-inch fuel-injected FE engine, Hotchkiss suspension, and Willwood 4-wheel disc brakes. The car has been featured multiple times on Jay Leno's Garage. Just going for a cruise down the highway. It makes me smile. Remembering those days, Jay said. And it still seems pretty quick. Of the 18 Holman Moody NASCAR Galaxies, built for 1965 to 1966, only 5 are known to survive. Their stories reveal the fragile nature of racing history. The most famous surviving Galaxie is Fred Lorenzon's number 28, which won the 1965 Daytona 500. This car was painstakingly restored by Dr. John Kraft, a federal prosecutor and dedicated stock car historian. It is one of only 3 known surviving Daytona 500 winners from the entire 1960s decade. The car has been displayed at Ford's Centennial Celebration, the SEMA Show, the Goodwood Festival of Speed in England, and the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance, where it won Best of Class. It even ran a parade lap at Daytona on the 40th anniversary of Lorenzon's victory. Another surviving NASCAR Galaxie started life as a 1963 pilot test car used in Ford sales brochures. It was later converted for racing and driven by Curtis Turner to victory in the 1966 Daytona Permatex 300. Bobby Allison drove it to a third-place finish in 1968, and Donnie Allison took it to third again in 1970. The car later appeared in a Ford Motorcraft television commercial with Ned Jarrett and has been offered at auction for $125,000. The 7-liter's brief production run was not due to any fault of the car itself. Instead, it was a victim of rapidly changing market conditions. When the Pontiac GTO debuted in 1964 and Ford introduced the Mustang the same year, the automotive world changed overnight. Buyers suddenly wanted smaller, sportier cars with big engines rather than traditional full-size performance cars. By 1966, the question many young buyers were asking was brutal but accurate. Why buy a heavy 4,000-pound or 1,814-kilogram Galaxie when a dirt-cheap 327 Chevy 2 has a better power-to-weight ratio? The 7-liter's pricing also worked against it. At $3,596.10 for the hardtop, buyers could get a Galaxie 500 XL with the same engine for just $43.67 less, or an LTD 4-door with the same drivetrain for almost the same price as the 7-liter, but with more prestige and practicality. The 97,065 LTDs Ford sold versus 11,073 7-liters tells the story clearly. For 1967, the 7-liter did not disappear entirely. It became a $515.86 option package on the Ford XL. This package included the 428 engine, disc brakes, special suspension, tires, and sport wheels, but without the unique badging and separate model status. By 1968, even this option package was gone. The era of full-size American performance cars had effectively ended. The 1966 Galaxie 500 7-liter holds a unique place in automotive history for several reasons. It represented the final flowering of full-size American performance cars before the market shifted entirely to intermediates and pony cars. It was simultaneously the best and the last. Dinosaur at the peak of its evolution, just before extinction. Making front disc brakes standard equipment on a mass-market American car was revolutionary in 1966. The 7-liter gave everyday buyers access to braking technology that most American cars would not offer as standard until the 1970s. Its engine would evolve into the 428 Cobra jet that dominated drag racing in 1968 to 1970. When that engine debuted at the NHRA Winter Nationals in 1968, it shocked the racing world by winning its class against supposedly superior competition. The 7-liter engine was the direct ancestor of one of the most successful muscle car power plants ever built. The 7-liter shared its platform, suspension, and engineering with the cars that won 48 of 55 NASCAR races in 1965. No other production car could claim such a direct connection to racing dominance. For enthusiasts interested in owning a piece of this history, the 7-liter offers an attractive proposition. Compared to more celebrated muscle cars of the era, the 7-liter remains significantly undervalued. A nice 1966 Pontiac GTO might cost $40,000 to $80,000, while a comparable 7-liter hardtop can be found for $25,000 to $55,000. The 7-liter offers genuine racing heritage from Ford's most successful NASCAR era. Low production numbers with only 11,073 built. Excellent parts availability, since many components were shared with common Galaxies, superior brakes for modern traffic conditions, and timeless styling that has aged remarkably well. The International 7-liter Registry at 7liter.org tracks surviving vehicles and can help verify authenticity. Key identifiers include a Q engine code in the vehicle identification number for the 428 engine, 7-liter emblems on grille, fenders, deck lid, and glove box door, special wheel covers unique to the model, standard disc brake equipment, and floor console with bucket seats. The rarest configurations, 427-powered cars, 4-speed convertibles, and cars with unusual option combinations. Command premium prices, but require careful documentation. The Galaxie name carried prestige far beyond American borders. In Brazil, where Ford produced the Galaxie from 1967 through 1983, 2 Galaxies served as the official presidential state car until 1990. In Chile, a 1966 Galaxie 500 XL convertible served as the presidential vehicle for many years. These international connections demonstrate that the Galaxie's combination of presence, reliability, and refined power made it suitable for heads of state, the ultimate vote of confidence in its quality. The 1966 Ford Galaxie 507-liter was a car of contradictions. It was a NASCAR champion's cousin dressed for the country club. It was the most technologically advanced full-size Ford ever built, arriving just as full-size performance cars became obsolete. It was fast enough to surprise most drivers at a stoplight, yet civilized enough for a family road trip. Ford created the 7-liter to show that performance did not have to mean compromise. You could have a 345-horsepower V8 without giving up air conditioning. You could have 462 pound-feet of torque with an automatic transmission. You could have disc brakes that rivaled European sports cars in a car that seated 5 adults comfortably. The market ultimately preferred smaller, lighter muscle cars, and the 7-liter faded into relative obscurity after just 1 model year. But for those who understand its significance, the racing DNA, the technological innovation, the elegant solution to the performance versus comfort dilemma, the 7-liter represents something special. It was the last and the best of its breed, a full-size American performance car at the peak of its evolution, carrying the torch of NASCAR championship glory into everyday driveways across America. Only 11,073 people got to experience it new, but the legend lives on in the survivors that enthusiasts continue to discover, restore, and cherish. As Jay Leno discovered when he finally got his 4-speed 7-liter decades after his father's was destroyed, these cars still make people smile. They are still pretty quick, and they are still telling a story that began with Ford's Total Performance program and continues every time one of these rare machines fires to life and rumbles down the road. If you enjoyed learning about this forgotten piece of automotive history, please subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the cars that shaped American muscle car culture.